good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you thirsty bunch of beer drinkers, whenever and wherever you're tuning in from. Thanks for pressing play and supporting a Canadian podcast. I'm Troy Burtch with Great Lakes, Ontario's local brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery based in Etobicoke who brings you this here Between Two Fermenters, the podcast where craft beer and conversation collide straight from the tanks to your ears. Today on the pod, we're welcoming someone whose beer journey has taken her from the mountains of British Columbia to the shores of Lake Superior and onto a national stage. My guest today is Hilary Hoogsteen, a driving force in Canada's craft beer world, and recently named the competition director of the Canada Beer Cup. Hilary first entered into the world of beer at Fernie Brewing Company in British Columbia. It's where she fell in love with the industry, built her skills, and developed a passion for connecting people through great beer. But in a bold career move, she packed up and made the trek east, all the way to Thunder Bay, to take a role with Sleeping Giant Brewing Company. That cross-country leap wasn't just a change of scenery, like two beautiful spots, but it was the start of a new chapter that would see her help grow the local beer scene. Since then, Hilary's impact has only expanded. She's been part of the Canadian Craft Brewers Association since 2021, working to support and advocate for breweries from coast to coast to coast. With the Canada Beer Cup under her direction, she's helping to raise the profile of Canadian brewing on a global stage. She also plays a key role with the Ontario Craft Brewers, helping with communications and outreach at a crucial time in this industry. If you've ever met Hilary, you know she's an energetic, positive force for local beer, someone who can talk about it for hours and still find time to market, organize, drink, and champion the industry. In short, she's living what a lot of you might call a dream job. We'll be digging into all that and more, so crack a cold one with us and get comfy. Let's get into it with Hilary Hoogsteen from Canada Beer Cup.
It's Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery. We believe in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. It's Great Lakes Brewery. Order online for free local home delivery. In the GTA, good times and amazing beer. That's GLB.
Hello, Hilary. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Troy. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for joining me all the way from up there in Thunder Bay. We have a lot to cover today. But first, for the listeners, you're connecting via Zoom because I tried to get you to fly here, but it wasn't in the budget.
Next time.
So how are things in Thunder Bay?
Things are good. We're having a great summer, getting some beautiful beer drinking weather. So it's going well.
Nice. And do you have a beer with you? That's the biggest question off the top. Do you have a beer with you today?
I do. I grabbed one from left field, the Queen of Baseball IPA. It's a tasty one.
Well, crack that open. It's not a Great Lakes. I'll forgive you for that. They're good friends of ours, left field, Mandy and Mark. Enjoy that while we dive into your background and your career. So as I mentioned off the top, I want to get into it from the beginning, from BC to the recent announcement about your new position with Canada Beer Cup. But first, if we can we give the listeners a little sense of who Hilary Hoogsteen is? Can you throw out a quick bio, who you are and what you are outside of all the beer stuff that you do?
Of course, yeah. So I'm a mother of two, and that takes up a lot of my time. So we're a bit of a travel fam. We love to pack up in the car and drive for weeks at a time. My kids' teachers don't particularly love that we pull our daughter out of school for weeks on end, but we like to give her the school of life, I guess. So we love to spend time outside. Thunder Bay is great for that. Camping, snowboarding. I attempt to grow food in my garden, and then lots of travel.
Nice. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you would be a traveling family coming from driving from BC or coming from BC to set up roots in Thunder Bay. So why don't we start there? So it's Fernie, BC. You took a job in 2017, marketing and social media associate. That was your first job in beer, I assume.
That's right. Yeah. So I completed my undergrad at SFU in Vancouver, and then we decided to move to Fernie. We thought that would be our permanent home. And when we made the move, you almost think Fernie Brewing before you think Fernie as a
Hmm.
town because it's such a well-established brand. So friends of ours were like, "Oh, are you going to work for Fernie Brewing?" And I was like, "Well, that would be a dream job, but we'll see if that ever happens." And lo and behold, that is where we ended up. So.
So why was it about Fernie Brewing Company? What was it about beer that attracted you to that location?
So my husband actually was hired at Fernie Brewing before I was. So he
Okay.
was hired as their delivery driver. He grew up, his dad owned an ice distribution company, so he learned to drive on a 5-ton truck. So he was a top pick for their delivery needs and then ended up doing the entire region. And then the marketing role became available and I applied for it. I started out just working in a hotel. So we didn't move to Fernie for beer. We moved to
Hmm.
Fernie for Fernie and then ended up at the brewery. And so I applied for the marketing position, but they were very hesitant to hire spouses.
Hmm.
And so I actually had 3 interviews and a project to get an entry-level job at Fernie Brewing. They
Wow.
really they really put me through the ringer on that one, and I guess I was able to prove myself enough that I got the job.
And what was it like at the time working with a spouse in the industry?
Oh, it's convenient for
Yeah.
carpooling. We barely saw each other. He was at the back and I was up in the office, but we really enjoyed it. It was nice to be able to like debrief at the end of the day and talk about colleagues, and we knew exactly who we were talking about, and it just totally became our life. We've never had work-life balance since we've worked in beer.
Yeah.
It's totally all-consuming because we love it so much, and that was no exception. So we really enjoyed working together, but we didn't actually interact at work very much.
So you moved to Fernie and you had no inkling of getting into beer, but your husband got the job, and then you said, "Well, I want to work at the brewery now." Is that how you fell in love with beer, or was there a deeper love that had already started before you got that job?
We were quite into beer before we moved to Fernie, just as appreciative consumers. We lived about 10 minutes from Brewers Row in Port Moody. We were in Coquitlam when I went to SFU, and so we would really enjoy just like hanging out with friends and going to the brewery hopping, and we're really growing an appreciation for it. That would have been right around the boom of craft beer, like 2016, 2017. And so we were already in love with craft beer. So working at Fernie Brewing was a dream job for both of us.
And what kind of beers were you drinking at Fernie, or what kind of beers were you marketing at Fernie?
Well, this was kind of right when, we were just hearing about these New England IPAs coming out and what's this all about. So that was kind of an emerging style, at least in Fernie, it was an emerging style. So when Hit the Deck came out, I still remember taking pictures of that beer, on the dock by the water in Fernie and writing a whole blog bio about what a New England IPA was like and trying to describe it to consumers. So that's one that stands out. They had some really popular flagships
Mhm.
that were like, an amber ale and their brown ale and the P9 Pilsner. Those had been popular for a while over there. But I Hit the Deck stands out because it was like, oh, it was this new exciting thing.
Nice. And so coming from no beer experience to then becoming a doing marketing and social media, what kind of learning on the job did you go through? Were you self-taught, self-educated on beer styles and how to talk and sell it essentially?
Yeah, it was a lot of just talking to the head brewer and getting um, really technical tasting notes, and
Mhm.
then I would just kind of elaborate and make them sound appealing. So, looking at kind of descriptions of hops and then just telling a story behind it. So that's one thing I just really love to do is tell stories and bring things to life. And at that point, I hadn't taken, any real technical training, but I was able to just take the technical info and kind of make it
Massage
a
it
little more
into,
fun and
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. So looking back on that first job you had in beer with Fernie, what are some of the things you learned there that have helped you move forward with your career in beer?
I would say one of the things I really learned there was I worked under Abby Moore, who tragically actually passed away about a year ago, and she developed really good systems. They're a very organized brewery, in the sense of they know what beer is going to be brewed 2 years from now, and the day the
Oh,
label
wow.
needs to be ordered, and the day the sell sheet needs to be ready. And so that is not how my brain works.
Mhm.
But working under Abby early in my career was so good for me because it it showed me the benefits of that type of organization. And then fast forward a little bit when I did move on to Sleeping Giant, which is a little bit newer and a little bit smaller. I really tried to bring those systems with me as much as I could, and I just saw how beneficial it is to have back of house and I guess the office side, the marketing team talking so seamlessly and knowing when things need to be ready, because then there's never a lag in the process of getting the beer onto the shelf.
I'm sure that actually works for you in your current role as the competition director for Canada Beer Cup, because there's a lot of logistics, a lot of organization that goes on into, wrangling brewers and all that. But we're going to touch on that later. But I assume that helps with your current role.
Absolutely, yeah.
So then in 2019, you guys packed your bags and loaded the car. I'm putting words in your mouth here. I don't know if you drove across country, but you headed to Ontario and landed in Thunder Bay, to be more precise, to work for Sleeping Giant Brewery as their brand experience coordinator. So first I got to ask, did you drive across the country?
Why did you ask? Matt drove and I flew.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's good. You had some nice, comfortable seat. You had a meal and everything. Yeah. But that's a huge move. So what drew you guys to Thunder Bay? So you're living in beautiful Fernie, BC, and you decided, let's go to Ontario to Thunder Bay.
Yeah, some people tell us we moved the wrong direction, but one thing I didn't touch on, so I actually found out I was pregnant between my first and second interview at Fernie Brewing.
Okay.
And so I was trying to really suck that baby bump in for a month or two till I kind of had my feet under me. And then I worked there for, 8, 9 months and then went on maternity leave. And my husband is originally from Thunder Bay. So we were living our dream out there. We are big snowboarders. It's world-class skiing and we loved our jobs. We happily would have stayed put, but just not having any family support and the high cost of living in Fernie, we felt like we were kind of putting our kids' futures aside to be living our dream a little bit. And so as our daughter was a little bit older, she was about 18 months, we were starting to feel the pull to be a little bit closer to one of our families. And so I guess we picked Matt's because he's from Thunder Bay. And so we popped into Sleeping Giant when we were back for Christmas and spoke to some of the management team there. And we just said, as your company grows, we would consider moving here at some point. These are our skill sets. And about a month later, we heard from them with job offers for both of us.
Oh, wow.
So that happened more quickly than we anticipated. But it was a do it now. The opportunities are here. So we pulled the plug on that then in March and we both moved. And Matt never actually accepted the position. He bought his dad's company, but I did end up working for them for about a year before COVID.
Yeah, I was going to say it's 2019 and then you worked there until about August 2020 at COVID times. So you had some COVID experience. But tell me about what you did at Sleeping Giant and how it differed maybe from Fernie, or was it along the same lines?
It was interesting because with Fernie being a bigger brewery, I was in sort of a more specific role, whereas at Sleeping Giant, they didn't have a lot of people that had ever worked in another brewery. So I was able to come in with all of that background, which I felt they were really good at, like acknowledging and taking advantage of. And so the role that I filled was a maternity leave position. It was supposed to be like on-site events, like just, setting up tents at festivals kind of a thing. But then they were like, oh, you can design sell sheets. Like, why don't you start designing all of our labels? And like, basically just became the marketing department very quickly. So I started a committee and, they built out their barrel-aged program at that point. And that was one of my favorite projects. I got to like design all the packaging for the barrel-aged segment of Sleeping Giant and ended up like implementing some of those systems that we spoke about and just sort of like overseeing a lot of like the design marketing side. I overhauled the website a little bit at one point. So the role really kind of
like with every smaller, newish craft brewery, a lot of people wear a lot of different hats. So it sounded like you you were doing a lot of different things. So you're probably working tastings and events as well.
Yeah, and then I was on all the offsite events as well. Yeah.
And then COVID hit. And so how did you guys pivot during COVID? Pivot, gotta take a drink. So what did you guys do during COVID when you were there?
So they actually laid off about 80% of their workforce,
Okay.
and I was part of that 80%.
Oh,
So
okay.
there wasn't a lot of on-site events going on,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
So I was at home, and I actually had like just a small handmade business, like an Etsy shop at the time, which absolutely blew up because everyone was supporting local. And
Hmm.
so I was like, oh, maybe I'll just stay home forever. Like, this is great. I'm just hanging out and making crafts.
What kind of crafts were you selling?
I do sewing.
Okay.
So yeah, I actually I made scrunchies, and those would like outsell like my full-time job wages. It
Oh,
was
wow.
just a really funny time in history to sell
So
scrunchies.
I learned something new today that maybe we can start ordering some GLB scarves or something. Hand sewed, handmade scarves. Is that something you can do?
I could make you some dog bandanas. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So you have two jobs under your belt at this time. You have a cross country move in you, and then things ended with Sleeping Giant. You had the Etsy store, but you decided you wanted to stay in beer. What was it about beer that made you want to stay in this industry?
I think at that point, like I had really fallen in love with like the community of craft beer and the product and just the industry as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So my former boss, Kevin, he sent, Kevin
Yep,
Brewer, he
Kevin Burke.
sent
Yep.
me,
What a last name to work for a brewery too.
oh, I know, how can you not, right?
His last name is Brewer. If you didn't hear that on the show yet.
So he actually sent me that job posting, and he's like, I think you'd be great for this, happy to be a reference. And so I was like, again, kind of just hanging out at home, really loving that. But
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't say no to the flexible hours, working from home. I was like, this seems like a great job.
And
So
just to
I did.
be clear, that was for the Canadian Craft Brewers Association.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did end up applying. I thought I was applying to this huge company at the time. Lo and behold, I was the first hire, but I had no idea. So Matt Pearson was at Sleeping Giant at the time, probably
Mm-hmm.
another
Yep.
familiar name for you.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave Rick a call, and that's how that kind of came to be. So I really have Matt Pearson to thank for my current position because he certainly
Yeah,
went to bat for me. And
Kevin to thank for connecting you with the posting, and Matt for reaching out. But it was all you that got the job. And that was Rick Dalmazzi. He was one of the founders of the Canadian Craft Brewers Association. Before we get to that, though, before we get to the CCBA, I want to talk a little bit about Thunder Bay. As you know, because we had beers together, myself and a colleague went down to Thunder Bay, we went up to Thunder Bay last year for GLB Beer Week. And it was my first time being there representing the brewery. And I loved it. I loved everything about the town. I loved everything about everything was the landscape, downtown, everything was great. I loved it. But I want to ask you, because a lot of us in Toronto don't get up to Thunder Bay. We see and we hear about it. But as a resident, someone who's worked in beer up there for Sleeping Giant and your current roles, I'm hoping to get a sense of what the craft beer scene looks like in Thunder Bay. If you can take us on a virtual tour of what the beer landscape looks like up there.
of course. So we spoke about Sleeping Giant. So we currently have 3 craft breweries and then a brew pub that are operating at the moment. So Sleeping Giant would be, I believe, still the largest craft brewery. And then we have Dawson Trail.
Mm-hmm.
They make fabulous beer, really modest, wonderful people at Dawson Trail. I love to support them. They've just moved into a new location with really good food. And there's like a virtual golf place on the other side of it. And then we also have a third brewery that's our newest called Lakehead Beer Co. I think they're some of the best brewers in Thunder Bay. They're making really great beer.
Yeah,
They started off.
Lakehead Pilsner, phenomenal beer. It blew us away when we were there.
Yeah. Yeah. So they started off with some quite I'd say conservative styles. Like they really weren't doing anything super outrageous or sexy initially. But I really appreciated that because we've had breweries come and go that have tried to be a little too experimental off the hop and not gotten things really dialed in.
Mhm.
And the folks at Lakehead, they really did things properly before they started branching out and just showed like they're good brewers. And they have this beautiful downtown location with exposed brick. They partner with one of our local restaurants that makes like, I don't know if you got to try the pizza, Troy, but so good. Their pizza's outstanding.
Unfortunately, when I was there, it was a Monday, and so
Oh, that's right.
the
Darn it.
restaurant part was closed. Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic space. It looked, and the beers were great, but the layout was awesome. So what else is going on in Thunder Bay aside from just the three breweries there?
So we've got the Prospector Brew Pub and then lots of restaurants that are quite supportive of craft beer. So we met up at Red Lion. That's where you had
Mhm.
your meetup. And the Foundry, we've got a neat little like urban market that's opened in the last couple of years that has a bar that brings in some really good stuff. So yeah, there's as you like to say, lots of thirsty bunch of beer drinkers up here.
Yep.
And you got quite the warm welcome when you guys showed up. It was neat to see people excited about your visit. And there's a lot of folks that really do love beer up here.
Yeah, it's social media creates such a small world because you connect with these people through, well, back then it would have been Twitter, but Instagram, Facebook, and the info ad email address, and people are writing in saying, "Hey, I'm in Thunder Bay. Can I get this beer here?" And then when we had the chance to go there and meet with the people in real life, it was like we were long lost friends catching up over the beer that brought us together, which was really nice. So, talk about the culture in Thunder Bay for the beer culture. You said that there's a lot of thirsty people up there, but what are people gravitating towards in Thunder Bay?
Well, I would say that and for many years we were probably like a little bit slow on the uptake, and that's somewhere I'll really give like Sleeping Giant a lot of credit for introducing Thunder Bay to craft beer, and this would have been before I was here, but um when they first established, they had a really, and they still do, have a strong flagship called Northern Lager. It's a golden ale, very easy drinking. And I think that bridged the gap for a lot of people. You know, when I would work the taproom shifts there, we would always get the like, give me something that tastes like a bud. And
Yeah.
people that were just clearly unfamiliar with craft beer and I don't like it, it's too hoppy. So that introduction, I think, was a big deal. And then now some of those non-craft people are a little bit more open-minded.
Hmm.
And then, you know, you've also got the folks that love craft beer and we're constantly frustrated that we're not getting any of the seasonal releases up here. And my husband and I order things by the case so that we can get what we want. But I do feel like for some of the Southern Ontario breweries, they overlook Thunder Bay because it's so far.
Hmm.
But there's certainly people, and quite a lot of people. We have 100,000 people in Thunder Bay. It's a fairly big market of folks that would love to see some of those one-off beers, the special releases come our way.
Yeah, we sell our tank tens in Thunder Bay. LCBO's up there and some of the grocery stores, and it's been great for us for many years. And we've had good fun selling to people like Red Lion Smokehouse, and it was nice to see the folks at Sleeping Giant and Lakehead. I don't know about that Northern Lager can design. I'm just gonna say that because I've seen that somewhere before. But so. You mentioned a couple places, but where's the best location to grab a pint in Thunder Bay? Just your favorite spot.
Other than the actual breweries themselves, which is where I tend to choose,
Yeah.
I would say with regards to restaurants, probably I love how Red Lion does a lot of like events and tap takeovers. So we get to see some like really fun stuff come through Red Lion. That's always going to be a favorite spot of mine. And I love the Goods and Co Market is another like beautiful space. And you can walk around. The whole facility is licensed. So you can go shop local artisans like with your beer in your hand, which is really something that I enjoy.
So there you go, listeners. If you ever find yourself in Thunder Bay for hiking or out on the water, just sightseeing, stop into those breweries, stop into those bars and restaurants that Hilary just recommended, because they're all fantastic. So let's get into your current role, if you're ready for that. It's a big
Sure.
one. So you joined the newly formed Canadian Craft Brewers Association, which is I'll refer to as the CCBA, in 2021. and your title was marketing and member support. So 2 questions. How did the job come your way? You already kind of mentioned that Kevin flipped you that link and Matt called, but how did you get it? And then what did the job entail after you jumped in feet first?
Yeah, so the story is not that interesting. It was just a typical interview, but I think the reason Rick hired me was because he sent me an email at about 11 p.m. New Year's Eve, and I replied to it. So he said, "That's this is
you're on it. Yeah, you're on it
for me." Yeah, somebody with no work-life boundaries, I guess. So, so that I guess for him was kind of the moment he realized I was the right fit, and and then that role initially entailed just sort of like day-to-day operations of the association, approving members, getting in the inboxes and replying to people. And then it really evolved from there.
Yeah. So the membership at the time, well, it still is at the time. If you're part of your provincial association, you get membership into the Canadian Association, correct?
That's right. It's a federated model. Yeah.
So then you were uploading all the stuff onto the website and making contact with the member breweries. This is what we do. This is where you can find your stuff.
That's right. So there's still like a registration process for any like OCB members, for example, that don't know. Like if you're a member of the OCB, you don't pay anything to join the CCBA. You just create your account on the website. We still go through an approval process to verify that you are a member of your provincial association. So that was a big part of my role initially when I was first hired. We've now, when I moved into managing the comp, we then hired a bilingual member support coordinator to cover off some of those tasks. But that's what I was originally hired for.
And so for those that may not know, because we've had Scott Simmons, the president of the Ontario Craft Brewers, on here twice now. Christine Como, the executive director of the CCBA, she's been on the show. But maybe just give us a refresher, some Coles notes on the CCBA. What is it? Who is it? And what do they do?
Sure. So the CCBA, the Canadian Craft Brewers Association, we are the national voice in Ottawa for craft beer. So we represent all Canadian craft breweries, and anyone that's a member of their provincial association is automatically a member of the CCBA. So our top priorities are making the 50% reduction on excise relief permanent and extending that so that there's not like a fiscal cliff for breweries that inhibits growth. So we are looking to extend that hectoliter volume runway so that some of the larger craft breweries can continue to grow. And then there's a number of like policy issues that pop up, like beer labeling guidelines and low risk drinking guidelines that we want to make sure craft breweries are fairly represented and that policies aren't, going through that wouldn't like properly represent industry. Of course, we, always advocate for moderation and protecting the public, but wanting to make sure that our breweries have fair advocates on their behalf with some of those federal policies. And then the Canada Beer Cup basically funds that work. So we do get a small
fee
kickback from the what's the term, from the provincial dues, but that by no means
each provincial association provides some money from their association to fund the CCBA. So a certain percentage of your provincial membership dues will go into helping with the CCBA.
That's right. Yeah. So that is sort of one portion of the funding, but it doesn't cover all the work that we do and that needs to be done. And so the Canada Beer Cup, that's where it comes in as sort of the main funding source for the CCBA.
Well, that's a good segue because since you joined, you've taken on the Canada Beer Cup. You've done managing it. You've done, I think why don't you tell me, you started off working with them to run this competition, but then you took it over and now you're the competition director. So tell me about Canada Beer Cup, the 5 W's. What is it? Where, when, how, why, all that stuff.
Sure. So the Canada Beer Cup, so we're Canada's national not-for-profit beer competition. So as noted, we fund the advocacy efforts of the CCBA.
Hmm.
So our registration just closed for 2025, and we will be judging in Calgary this year. We move our judging every 2 years. We're a national competition, so we do keep that in mind when we select locations, and then we move our gala every year. This year, our gala will be happening in Quebec City. And for those that aren't familiar with the beer competition, you register online, you ship your products to a consolidation point where we then bring them to a central judging venue. We fly in judges from all around the world. We've worked very hard to build a reputation as a world-class competition and bring in the best judges that are available from around the globe. Then those beers are blind tasted over a number of days, and score sheets are completed. Top beers end up medaling, and then we hold a gala in Quebec where we award winners from across the country. They receive national recognition, and
Yeah, so
that's
there's a lot to unpack there. So let's kind of break it down a little bit here. So you're put in charge of the marketing of the whole competition. So tell me in your words, what is that like as someone that has to manage all that? What does it look like to you? What's your day to day look like in trying to organize, facilitate, and pull off the biggest beer competition in Canada?
well, it's a lot. It's a lot of trying to keep things on the rails. And every year around this time, I have a mini meltdown that it's not going to work and
Yeah,
it's all going to go awry. And then lo and behold, we do it and it all works out great. It's never perfect, but it all works out great. And then we do it again the next year. So, yeah, how things kind of evolved from member support. So our first year, I did not run the competition the first year that we ran Canada Beer Cup. We hired a wonderful friend of mine, Christina, who ran things for us. And I did the just the marketing and communications and worked very hand in hand with her. And then that second year, Christina has a full-time job and a family that she needs to be focusing on. And so she was like, I'm really just here to be a consultant. And we were searching high and low for a competition director and realizing it's a really odd skill set, requires someone that can keep a lot of balls in the air.
yeah.
And after interviewing several people that weren't the right fit, Christine asked me if it's a role I would consider taking on. And I immediately panicked and can I sleep on it? Like I can't do that. It's crazy. So anyways, after a couple of days of sleeping on it, I did eventually take the role. But with Christina as a consultant that first year, and then that's evolved into competition director. And so, yeah, so in terms of just keeping things on the rails, it's just a lot of spreadsheets. There's a million bits and pieces in terms of like, I tend to lean very, very heavily on the logistics. Even though I have a marketing background, my brain is very logistics focused. And because the marketing side is second nature to me and I have a design background, I can quickly whip up a graphic or something to go on Instagram, but you have to keep the logistics airtight or the entire competition
For
falls
sure.
apart.
Yeah.
I tend to focus on that.
And Christina Santone, that's the person you're referring to. If we can give her a shout out, I've worked with Christina in the past, and she is amazing. So
She's one of my favorite humans.
let's give her a little shout out here. So both Christina and I worked with another competition years and years and years ago. That's where we were with Taps Magazine for a long time together. So I get the stress and the anxiety that you feel right before the competition, because at that time. We were the largest, and the goal was to bring more and more brewers from all across Canada. We had always great representation from BC and Ontario, but we really wanted to bring in the Quebec and then kind of the middle provinces. And so we worked really hard to do that. And then we started to see the numbers creep up on how many entries. And then that just meant more pressure and more pressure. And so I get what you're saying. So how many, let's talk numbers. How many breweries this year, how many beers will be judged? Let's talk some stats. Give me some stats.
Yeah, this year we absolutely blew our projections out of the water. I think breweries are really starting to connect the dots between the nonprofit aspect and the fact that supports the CCBA.
Mm-hmm.
So even if they're not super into beer competitions or super not into beer competitions anymore, they're willing to support us because they recognize that we're advocating on their behalf. So we have over 300 breweries participating this year and close to 1,800 entries.
Nice. And so we have 1,100 or so craft breweries in the province, in Canada. That'd be a lot for Ontario, but 1,100 or so in Canada. And you have just over 300 applicants. That's not a bad number considering that, some of the smallest of the small don't enter any competitions, and the biggest of the biggest don't enter any of the competitions anymore. What's the breakdown provincially? Where are you getting all these entries from?
BC's always been really strong with participation, and it does reflect in the number of awards that they bring back to the province. And so they continue to be strong, but actually every province was up from 2024 this year, and we have entries from every single province and territory across Canada.
Did Nunavut Brewing Company enter this year?
They did.
Nice. That's good. It's the only brewery up that way. So you talked about flying in judges from all over the globe, all around the globe. Tell me about the judges. Tell me about the judges and the judging process. Who are they and how do they do it? Because you guys introduced a new system of capturing notes and doing the scorecards, correct?
That's right. Yeah. So we started doing that right from the get-go of the competition. The Beer Awards platform was, I believe we were in the first competition in Canada to start using it. And it's a wonderful system and very, very efficient for the judges to use. So yeah, I'm extremely proud of our judging panel this year. We have compiled an exceptional judging panel. With 6 Grandmaster judges. We'll have an all Grandmaster Best in Show panel. And then just a really excellent range of top judges that, whether they've gone through BJCP, Cicerone, or just really well-rounded industry individuals. We have a handful of writers, handful of brewers that we believe are well-rounded in their judging capabilities as well. Folks from Europe, Mexico, a lot of US judges, and then really strong representation from across Canada as well to offset any possible regional palate preferences. So I'm really proud of our panel once again this year. Feel proud that these judges want to come and work with us and that we're building that reputation that they come back year after year.
And now to the breweries, if you had a message to the breweries who, and Great Lakes is one of them, we haven't participated in a number of years, but we decided this year that we would send in just a handful of beers to the competition. We stopped doing it. It was a business decision for us that we just felt like we don't need it. And like you said, we thought, hey, at least we can support the industry and the association this way. But what would you say to breweries that are in the same kind of boat that were like, you know what, we don't do awards and we don't want to pay? And so what would you say to someone that is on the fence about joining or registering for Canada Beer Cup maybe in 2026?
Well, I think everyone maybe has a little bit of a different reason behind where they would get value out of awards. For a smaller brewery, it's probably recipe development. For those mid-sized breweries, winning an award is a pretty cheap press release, and we can support you quite a bit in the marketing side of things. But for folks that are maybe in the boat that you just described, I think Josh from Dominion City said it really well. He called it tithing. But basically, look, this is the right thing to do. The CCBA is advocating on your behalf. This is a key funding source for the National Association. And so as much as I want to believe everyone should believe in the value of the awards just for what they are, I acknowledge that some people just don't. Some breweries just don't like awards. And I think seeing the benefit of supporting your national nonprofit and your voice in Ottawa is very, very important for the industry as a whole at the end of the day.
That Josh guy's a smart fella. He is a good friend of mine. So that's great. I think that's the message. I think that's the message going forward. That's the message that we need this competition to help fund the CCBA, which will in turn help support and grow the industry from an advocacy and a lobbying and best practices standpoint. And I think that's something that's being worked on. So it's quite a task, though, coordinating so many beers being shipped to various points of the country for judging. You got to wrangle the brewers, send reminders, talk to folks, owners, or whoever's doing the entries. What are you most proud of as it relates to your time managing the logistics side of things? Did you have a lot of beer that people registered last year that didn't show up, or what's your track record of beers coming in from the distribution points and being judged? Is it like 100% or?
I'm extremely proud that the 2 years I've managed the competition, we've never lost a beer that was actually
That's good
used by us, which is pretty unheard of.
Yeah.
And I can't completely take credit for that. I'll take credit for hiring a really good logistics team. Paul and Mark and Fernando, they've got unbelievable attention to detail, and it's their sorting processes. You get tired at the end of a day and put the beer in a wrong bin. That's how easily a beer can be lost. And we've been able to judge to 100% completion the last 2 years.
Nice. Now, a very personal question. What happens with all the leftover beer that doesn't get tasted for judging? Does that go back to Thunder Bay?
You can't see my air quotes, but it's disposed of, Troy.
Oh, okay. By people, I assume. A little inside story here. When we used to do the other competition, after the judging was done and the winners were all announced, all the leftover beer, all of it was packaged up into tubs, and we would invite people over to the place, and we'd pick through it. And here's what I want this, I want this barley wine from this brewery in BC that you can't get here. And I would take home like these 3 tubs of so much beer and then have just this big party, and people were drinking 10-12% barley wines or double IPAs that you couldn't find in outside of BC, and it was just, those were some great parties with very good memories. But I digress. Is there anything else about Canada Beer Cup and the CCBA you want to touch on before we move on to the Ontario Craft Brewers?
Just that I'm really proud of where the CCBA is at. I think we've really found our feet the last couple of years. Christine's leadership has been an unbelievable addition to the association, and seeing us become more stable with Canada Beer Cup as our funding source, it's an exciting time to be part of the National Association. We're really starting to become, more mature is how I would describe it, more stable, and that just means that we can do more to advocate for the breweries in Canada.
Nice, and you're having fun?
We're having fun.
There you go. So Ontario Craft Brewers, I got an email one day. This is my quick segue over to Ontario Craft Brewers. I got an email one day from Scott Simmons, the aforementioned president of the association, and you were CC'd on it. And I was like, hey, I know her. She's with the OCB now. That's how I came to find out that you had joined the OCB. When did you start helping out with them?
I started, it's been about a year and a half now. Last year in February. And I often laugh when things like that happen. People are probably like, oh, this girl's got her paws and everything. The same suppliers. And
well, Scott was like, oh, just reach out to Hilary. And I was like, oh, okay. Isn't she? Anyway. And what role do you have with the association?
I think my title is member support and communications coordinator, something along those lines. So again, helping with day-to-day operations and comms and website stuff.
Yeah, I think you were, the speakers reception, which is an annual event that we all look forward to, where we go and sample beers with politicians and bureaucrats at Queen's Park. I think that's something you're facilitating on the membership outreach. And anything else that you're doing with them, like that we should be aware of?
With the Ontario Craft Brewers right now, I'm doing a lot of LCBO allocation letters. That's a big member benefit for the OCB. So I do not personally do the allocations. I just send the letters to the members to tell them what their allocations are. And the logistics of, getting catering numbers to you for the AGM. And there's lots of bits and pieces with some of the different events that the OCB does. And somebody needs to just get the head counts and wrangle everybody and ask who's going to show up and call people to remind them to buy their conference tickets. Actually, I
was just going to ask you about that. Yeah. You're doing some work on the conference right now?
Matt James is actually helping out with a lot of the sales side of the conference. So I'm less involved, but I'm doing all the website updating and that sort of thing.
Nice. Yeah, a little plug here. Give us a little plug. I'll plug, you plug the Ontario Craft Brewers Conference.
Yeah, it's a blast. I go to all the conferences in Canada, and the OCB always does a fabulous job. I find the marketplace, the exhibition area
Hmm.
really, really robust, and I love Hamilton. I went to school in Hamilton. It's a great city. The social aspect of the conference was just an absolute blast last year. I thought the Brewers showed up and gave everybody such a warm welcome with the after events, and yeah, it's just such a nice time for everybody to come together and just to see each other. I think that's where so much value comes in from the conference is like the conversations you have over a beer. And
Yeah,
then all of a
over
sudden a year later there's a big deal coming out, but it's the technical sessions you can learn heaps and it's a big value for your team, but I personally feel there's a lot of value actually in the social activities.
Yeah, for sure. And it's November 5th and 6th in Hamilton, and tickets are available for brewers. And if you're not a brewer, you want to be a brewer, or you want to own a brewery one day, you can still come. So go over to OntarioCraftBrewers.com to get more information. One last question before we jump over to rapid fire stuff here. But you've worked for both, or you work for both national and now a provincial association. What are the biggest differences between the two that you can identify?
Well, the direct membership at the provincial level is very involved, because you're like directly, I guess, managing and responding and listening to the members a little bit more. We do also directly listen to the members as the CCBA, but a lot of it comes through the provincial executive directors at our board meetings.
Hmm.
So they'll speak on behalf of all of their members, whereas the provincial associations, of course, they're more focused on provincial policy, and it's a pretty exciting time to be a part of the OCB. But there's a lot more day-to-day member interactions at the provincial level.
And does the CCBA, and I might be putting you on the spot here, does the CCBA, like right now, BC is having a big provincial campaign. Does the CCBA ever help uh, put the word out that these different provincial associations are doing these different advocacy things? So, like when Ontario was doing Save Your Local Craft Beer campaign, was the CCBA helping push that message nationally, just for awareness?
Where we can, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
We've got our like our national newsletter and our social channels. And so we uplift those efforts as much as possible and help celebrate their wins because they tend to lay the path for other provinces. Government often will follow suit of what another province has just done rather
Mhm.
than reinvent things themselves. So if one province is able to emulate a policy that's been changed in another province, that's extremely helpful.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So I have Roland Baggett's knocking on or tapping me on the shoulder. He wants a word in here, so we're gonna give him the mic. When we come back, we're gonna talk. We're gonna ask some rapid fire questions. So grab a drink, and we'll be right back with Hilary. One sec.
Well, how's your doodle? Rollin' Baggage here, rollin' solo down here at Sunnyside Beach. I's likes to get here nice and early to grabs me some prime sandy real estate. I lays out me towel, slather myself liberally with tannin butter, and soak in some tasty vitamin D. Speaking of tasty, looky in me cooler box. A whole gaggle of Sunnyside Session IPA. Big on the taste, low on the alcohol. A springtime, summertime, anytime treat, and a permanent staple in the grips of me fingers. Oh, and check out the can to see a brand new me. Been lifting some iron to boost me biceps, triceps, and me deltoids. You know what they say, sun's out, guns out. Work your tan and crack a can of Sunnyside Session IPA.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roland Baggett's. Just an FYI, he did tell me on his way over here that we're canning the very last run of Sunnyside next week, and it's going to be done for the season. So if you're a fan of Sunnyside, it's time to jump on and buy a couple cases to get you through the late summer and fall season. Okay, Hilary, are you ready to go? We're going to ask some rapid fire questions here.
All right, I'm ready.
Other than the beer that's in your hand or a Great Lakes beer, what beer have you been enjoying recently?
Well, if I can't say Great Lakes, I did just order a case from Josh at Dominion City, and that cross Canada collaboration that he did. The
Glorious and Free.
Glorious and Free. Thank
Nice.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really neat project. I was excited to support that one.
Nice. How was the beer? Was it good?
It was really good.
It was delicious, probably. Yeah. Name one brewery that's consistently impressed you.
Well, I wish they were a member of the CCBA, but I do really love Messerem in Montreal. They're a really neat little spot.
Nice. Name your celebrity doppelganger.
This is a hard one. I think I have a bit of a common face, but I think Anna Delvey, the famous con artist.
Okay.
Might be my Halloween
I was
costume.
going to say I don't know who that is, but I'll look it up. I'll take your word
The
for it.
Netflix documentary about it.
All right. Name a person or brewery in the industry that has or continues to inspire you.
I know it's the obvious answer, but I've got to say Christine Comeau. She has moved mountains. She has stabilized the CCBA. Just an absolutely wonderful addition to the association. And Scott Simmons. That guy gets so much done in a day. It's unbelievable.
Best time and place for a beer.
I'm going to say On the Dock by the lake.
Favorite brewery you've ever toured.
I was recently at Cantillon in Brussels, and that was like a piece of history. Pretty cool.
Did you get down into the cellar at Cantillon?
We did, yeah.
It's so awesome, eh? If you could only drink one beer for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I think I'd have to say a smoothie sour because it's kind of like a meal. So
Oh my
it's
God.
like sustenance and a
Okay,
beer.
all right. Well, I'll let you have
A
that.
little-
These
I know
are
it's
these are
trendy.
your answers, they're not mine. Best place to
Controversial.
I kind of already asked you this, but best place to grab a beer in Thunder Bay.
I'm going to say Lakehead Beer Co. I love it there.
Yeah.
Good pizza.
Have you purchased beer from a convenience store yet?
You know what? I actually have. Yeah.
Okay. One thing that is misunderstood about Canada Beer Cup.
That beer competitions don't help sell beer.
Okay. If you could have a beer with just one person in the whole world, dead or alive, famous or not, who would you choose?
This one really stumped me. I don't know. Maybe Jay Shetty. I like his books. That guy's got some good insights.
No, who is that? I don't even know who that is.
Jay Shetty. Oh, he was a monk. And he's now an author and speaker.
Okay. And last one, Hilary, best hangover cure.
I've got to say, not getting one in the first place. Best offense is good defense, Troy.
Good. That's a good one. That's the first one that's ever said that. I like that one. Hilary, this has been great. Thank you very much for shedding a light on your career in beer, for walking us through the CCBA and the Canada Beer Cup, and for sharing all the great stuff about the Thunder Bay beer scene. I highly encourage people to go and check out Thunder Bay and check out the breweries that Hilary's mentioned and the bars and restaurants that are supporting those breweries. And Hilary, all the best with the upcoming judging and the awards. And thank you again for taking the time to come on today.
Thanks for having me. That was a blast, Troy.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And that's it. That's all, folks. Episode 43 with Hilary Hoogsteen, competition director with Canada Beer Cup, amongst other titles, has moved from the mash tun to the fermenters. If you enjoyed our conversation or any other episodes, please leave a review or a comment wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is fueled by cans of Great Lakes Lager. You can find cans all across Ontario at your local LCBO, grocery and convenience stores, beer store locations, and at both GLB retail locations. You can also find it at greatlakesbeershop.ca for free local home delivery. You can visit the brewery at 30 Queen Elizabeth Boulevard in Etobicoke or grab some delicious eats and fresh pours at our brew pub at 11 Lower Jarvis Street in Toronto. If you have any content you'd love to hear us discuss on the show, guest ideas, or just want to tell us what you're drinking, drop us a line at podcast@greatlakesbeer.com. Until next time, please remember to keep tipping your glass of fresh JLB in the right direction. Supporting local never tasted so good.
To learn more about what's happening at Great Lakes Brewery, visit greatlakesbeer.com and subscribe to our weekly newsletter or follow Great Lakes Beer on your favorite social media platforms.